Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. Excuse me. Today, I would like to talk about um, taking action. And I heard some shares this morning that made me think about how difficult it is to see what some of these principles that we learn in the sobriety program, it's hard to see what that's going to do in our lives until we just do it. It's kind of like doing the next right thing, even when we don't want to. I heard this morning the idea of acting your way into feelings. So, kind of like putting a smile on your face first, and then the smile will develop on the inside. All of that seems very related to me. Um, we learn in the sobriety program how these promises it says the promises will materialize um, if we work for them. And they will materialize sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And it's really, really difficult to see that because especially when they materialize slowly. And that can be frustrating. And as I've mentioned, this whole period of time when we put down the drink, but we haven't quite picked up the tools because we need time. We need time to hear what the principles are, hear what what is the next right thing? What does it mean to do the next right thing? And then applying it in our lives on a daily basis, and then being able to come back at the end of the day, look at a step 10, figure out where have I been angry, resentful, afraid, and what did I do about it? How can I do it better next time? Like that is practice, and that's what all of this takes. If we are slow to practice it, if we are slow to apply the principles of the program in our daily lives, um, that is going to be your sometimes slowly. The promises will materialize. Sometimes we face more difficult scenarios in our lives. And that is also when the promises may materialize slowly. We all have our different experiences. But one thing that I am certain of is that the program works if you work it. And that's what we hear at the end of the meetings. A lot of different meetings will say that at the end of the meeting. It works if you work it. And I heard that when I first went to my sobriety meetings, and I was like, I have no idea what that means. But it means applying the principles in all of my affairs. Sometimes I've talked a lot about emotions and feelings this week. It's neat when I step back and look at the weeks because it seems like I end up having a theme every week. And it's really because that's what I'm going through in my life. Like right now, I have a lot of feelings. I always have a lot of feelings. Um, but this idea of acting my way into feelings really resonates with me because what I've learned in my life from my experience is before I got sober, my feelings paralyzed me. I The feelings would cause me to crawl under the covers, literally. And this program teaches me that I may want to crawl under the covers, but I throw them off of myself anyway. it's if I'm looking at it from the perspective of resentments, um, the idea of when I'm resentful towards somebody, what I want to do is tell them off. But what I do is pray for them. It is the complete opposite of what I want to do. So I turn off my wanter. That's why I developed this phrase, turning off my wanter, because if I can just if I can look at the the idea of me wanting to do something and not doing it, if I can look at that as an organ inside of me that I can turn on and off, like a switch, if I can turn off my wanter and act without relying on that wanter, um, it enables me to practice the principles in my affairs. If I if I allow my wanter to speak louder to me than my program, then I will not that I will again be one of the examples of the promises coming to true slowly. um, so it takes practice. And one of the things that I heard this morning that it didn't bother me, but it compelled me to have to share. Um, Somebody mentioned how I don't think that that actions, the principles of the program, the actions that we learn through the program, I don't think that these will ever be second nature to me. And I thought, but they will. They can. But we have to develop the habits. And I talk about that a lot here. Actions can become habits. I mean, we have perfect examples in our lives of that. We are we are creatures of habit. And so things like brushing my teeth before bed, things like coming home from work and going directly upstairs to change my clothes into my pajamas. That was always a habit of mine because it made me feel better. That I could just strip away the day and put on my pajamas, and then I was like in my happy place again. These simple everyday actions are things that we had to learn by doing them. And the same thing is true with the principles of the program. And I've talked about how when I feel anxious now, my reaction has become do it, do the thing. Whatever it is that's making me anxious, do the thing. And I will be anxious for a shorter period of time and I will reach the other side because now when I feel anxiety, I see it as a small hill that I have to climb and get to the other side. And there's no way around it. There are fences on both sides of the hill. And if I try to go around, I'm going to be faced with this emotional wall. And it's just anxiety. I can't get around the fence. And I can beat on the fence of anxiety as much as I want, but I cannot break it down. The only way to the other side of that hill is to go over it. And so now that I can see it that way, and I'm a very much um, a what is it called? Like envision. I envision a lot of things. I'm a visual person. That's I think what it is. Um, and when I'm able to picture anxiety in this way, it's very easy for me to see the simplicity of my anxiety. Because before, when I was drinking, anxiety to me was a storm. It was everything. It was a storm. It was a swamp. It was a all-consuming um, feeling around me. And I didn't see that there was another side, that I couldn't see the finish line. It was a race that was never going to end. And today, because I was introduced to these principles and the next right thing, the phrase, the next right thing, um, and then I applied those things to my life and started to see that, oh, when I'm anxious about something, if I do it, if I do the work, I get to the other side and then I'm not anxious anymore. And so doing that over and over again over the past 8 years has developed a habit. I have now linked, and I've talked about this in one of the episodes, I've linked a specific action with a specific feeling or emotion. So now anxiety equals action for me. Um, but it's hard, it's challenging. I have to go through the sweating, the shaking, the face trembling, the voice shaking, the hot flashes, like the heart beating out of my chest. I had to go through that in order to experience the solution to it. I had to trust what I was hearing other people telling me in the program, like, you can get through this. You can. And I didn't know I could, I truly didn't know that I could. So then I was able to link the action with the emotion. Another linked action with emotion is the pause is linked with anger. And I talked about the pause yesterday. Um, I had to practice it just recently, actually, several times over the past year. Practicing, like, when I'm angry, I should not react because I've seen what happens when I react, and I have to go back and deal with it. I'm not taking the happy path. Like when I was in marketing, in my career, and we were developing a website, there is something that I learned is like if you diagram out the website, I can't even remember the terms for it anymore. It's been like 3 years since I've been able to work and know words and stuff like that. So forgive me. But um there is a way of developing a website where you develop happy paths. And a happy path is like you want to have the least amount of clicks in order to allow a website visitor to get to the place where they want to go. And the so you try to figure out like how can you get people to the place they need to go with the least amount of effort. And what I have found is when I'm angry, I need to get to my destination of serenity. And the happy path is actually pausing. That is the happy path from going from anger to serenity is the pause. I have to go through the pause. That's the first click on the website of serenity, anger to serenity. I have to click pause. And once I clicked pause, then I'm doing my self-reflection. I'm making thoughtful decisions about how to behave next. I'm, you know, talking to another person or praying or whatever it is that works for you. That's the happy path for me to serenity. So linking action to emotion for anger is the pause. And one thing I shared this morning about the pause and doing the next right thing that I realized, and let's see if it comes out as eloquently as it did in the meeting this morning. But it's like when I'm faced with something I can't change, right? We have the serenity prayer. If I'm faced with something that I can't change, then I need to pause typically. I need to pause. If I'm faced with something that I can change, which is typically where anxiety comes for me, I need to do the next right thing. Like that is the connection that I made this morning. Um, if I'm faced with something that I can't change and I feel anxiety about it, because I feel anxiety about everything. If I'm faced with something I can't change and I feel anxiety about it, I click pause and then I figure out what it is that I need to do next, right? The next right thing, really, but the pause has to come first. If I'm faced with something I can change, I really don't need to pause so much unless it's something that I'm angry about. But if it's something that I'm just anxious about, I don't really need to pause. I just need to do the next right thing. So I started to, just like there's this neuroplasticity, is what they call it, where our brain can pave new paths in our brain um, to heal itself and um, create habits. That is what's happening in my actions. It really is neuroplasticity that is creating the connection between the action and the emotion. That's what I'm trying to do. And the more that I can pause when I'm angry, I'm really, chiseling away at that path and making it a habit. And the more that what's the other one? I pause, do the next right thing when I'm anxious, I'm chiseling away at that connection in my brain. And that is neuroplasticity at its best. Um, what I have been experiencing with neuroplasticity is in the terms of stroke. So if I'm um, having a hard time scanning a room, then I need to practice scanning a room. And it's very uncomfortable. I can't tell you, like people who have had a stroke, um, it it probably it resonates more with you about when something is physically uncomfortable and we've had a stroke, um, doing it with a medical supervision, doing it more over and over again, slowly, it's chiseling away that pathway so that my eyes can start handling looking around a room. Um, and just like today, where if I were to look around this room today, it would severely bother my head because I'm having really, really heavy symptoms since the Super Bowl. Um, but it will get better. and then I'll be able to look around the room again. But I have to practice. I have to rest. I have to practice. I have to pause. I have to do the next right thing. It's the same thing. The way that I'm dealing with my stroke is the same way that I'm dealing with my sobriety. And one thing that I heard this morning that I don't know that I've heard this before is pause. So um, sobriety, the sobriety fellowship likes to use acronyms. And so I heard for the first time the acronym for pause. And what I heard was pause stands for practice awareness until spirituality emerges. And I thought that that was a really good one. I'll say it again in case anybody wants to write it down. Pause stands for practice awareness until spirituality emerges. Um, and I thought that that was really cool. It's something that I didn't talk about at all throughout this whole episode is where is the spirituality in all of that, you know? So that might be something we can just end with is think about where is the spirituality when where does that fall in all of this where we're connecting action with emotion? Where is the spirituality? And when I think about it like offhand, the spirituality is that connection that I'm building, is the pathway that I'm chiseling away at. That's the spirituality. So that's what I've got today. And today's a rest day. I am attempting to be horizontal for as much as possible today. So I'm going to listen to books. I'm going to listen to a movie. I don't know what movie. And maybe crochet. I'm not sure because I don't know that crochet is the best thing for me when I'm feeling this bad. But I just feel like over the past week, the best way I've been able to describe it is it feels like I have a concussion. When I was in college, one night I was drinking heavily and I guess I was being silly and I hit my head on the concrete floor of the dorm room and it I literally couldn't lift my head up off the pillow for like 2 days. I probably should have gone to the hospital. There were a couple times I should have gone to the hospital, but I was drunk and I'm just grateful to be here. That's all. But that's what I feel like. It's that same feeling like I hit my head on concrete without the big bruise on the outside of my skull. Um, so it's very unpleasant. And if I don't do something about it, meaning rest, it will develop into a headache that is just like the one that I had when I was in college, where I couldn't lift my head up off the pillow. So, unfortunately, my headache specialist, neurologist person, gave me some medication to take when I'm having a really bad day. So I took it the other day and it didn't do anything. So I'll try again today. But what I was telling my mom and my sister yesterday is like, it's not, I can't seem to articulate what it is that my head is feeling. It's not a traditional headache where you would take Advil. It is like a concussion. It's imagine hitting your head and having a concussion and taking Advil. It's not going to take care of the root cause. So I think that that's what this new medication that she's trying me on is for like a traditional headache. And that's just not what's going on in my head. So I am going to try to take it one more time, I think, and see what that does. And if it doesn't do anything, then I'm abandoning the new medication as well. So that's what I have. Thanks for joining me today. I'll talk to you tomorrow.